what I want to talk about, this is the theme for our innovation programs here at Arizona State University is just start. Just start. Like, what did you learn today that you can take with you and start? Was it a wellness? Was it to meet with a researcher? Was it to bring innovation into your workforce? But what can you do and just start? What is it? The journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step, right? So what step are you taking? And as an innovator, like, how many have ever had a good idea, right? So what about this morning? Have you had a good idea this morning? So how many of you guys have sat here for 3 hours and thought, maybe this chair isn't the most comfortable chair I've ever sat in, right? Yeah, so what did you do? In your mind, did you think maybe more back padding? Maybe an armrest? Where's the recline button, right? Where's the seat heater and the massager? Like, did you draw it down? Did you come up with an idea? Just start. Like, you're always coming up with innovative ideas. So what are you gonna do with them? Just start. The idea of innovation is a new solution to an old problem or an old solution to a new problem. What I like to think of innovation is those thoughts of like, why didn't I think of that? Or how did they ever think of that? Or what took them so long to think about that? How many of you have ever seen one of these here, right? Right, the little, a lot of young girls turned it into a chair for their Barbie dream house, right? Or young Kens. But it's a pizza saver. And what took them so long? The rumor is the very first pizza delivery happened in 1889 with Queen Margherita when she visited Naples, Italy. But the pizza saver wasn't invented until 1974. Like there were 85 years of ruined pizzas. Like, how many family dinners were ruined by not having a simple plastic divider that's gonna keep a separation between the box and the cheese? Like, it just doesn't so just start. Just start, save the pizza, right? Why is innovation hard? Why is innovation hard in healthcare especially? Because we're taught a set of rules and we're told we need to follow those rules, right? What's the shortest distance between 2 points? A straight line. Well, what if there's a mountain between those 2 points? Is it still a straight line, or could we just skirt around the mountain? 2 + 2 = 4. I thought that was always true until my daughter became a 5th grader and I tried to help her with math. I don't know what 2 + 2 equals, but we're taught that it equals something. So innovation is hard because we're always told, do this, don't do that. You can, you can't, you may not. Touch this, don't touch that. But there are so many great innovations out there that we just have been told we can't even think about. So how many of you were raised or raised your children to not ride with strangers, right? Don't ride with strangers. Guess what? There may not be candy in that van, right? There's probably not a puppy in need of love, right? Stay away, just say no, stranger danger. When I talk to high school students or college students about this, they picture a white van, a white windowless van. Like, I don't know how the van suddenly became white and windowless that all of a sudden abducts all these children in the neighborhoods, but it's a white windowless van. And one day we had work was being done from our house, and a plumber showed up with a white van with a ladder on the top. And my daughter comes in the house and she's like, oh, there's one of those Predator vans out there. And I'm like, Predator van? Like, no, it's a plumber's van. Like, there's a different word, different meaning. She's like, no, it's one of those. But we learned, don't ride with strangers, right? It's ingrained in us. Well, how many of you have ever taken Uber or Lyft, right? 7.6 billion trips in 2022. 131 million people use Uber Eats once a month. 2022, Uber generated $31.8 billion. Did you know your driver? Or did you just trust the stars, right? You're riding with strangers. You could have come up with that idea a long time ago, right? But no, it's because you've been ingrained. Don't ride with strangers. Don't do this. Don't do that. So the crazy thing, from best tips to be a successful Uber driver from the Uber website, number 1, keep snacks handy. So guess what? There really is snacks in there. Like, who would have thought, right? So innovation is always, like, sometimes innovation is taking the risk. Like being different, being the oddball, being like, with innovators, we love the kids who color outside the lines, right? In art class, you were taught like, color this tree. Well, what color is the trunk supposed to be? Brown. What color are the leaves supposed to be? Green. Well, are all trees brown and green? Or sometimes trees look a little bit different, right? Do all branches come off the tree, or sometimes do they go in all different directions? So we love the kids that can't really follow the rules and don't necessarily stay within the lines. The other rule that we have usually growing up is, have you ever had a sleepover? I always call these stay awake overs, right? Like when my daughter would go on a stay awake over and then we got to deal with her the next day. But what's a rule with a sleepover? Do we know the parents? Do we know where you're going to be? Have we ever met them? So the largest rideshare company, Uber and Lyft, own no cars. The largest vacation rental own no rooms. Who's ever stayed in Airbnb? Or VRBO? Who's ever had a sleepover at a stranger's house? Right? Did you know them? I mean, you hope there weren't cameras there, but did you know where you were going? Have you met the owners? Or do you just, now we just do it. We just trust, right? So what a phenomenal idea. In fact, Airbnb got started with a group of kids in San Francisco that couldn't afford rent, so they threw air mattresses down. And they threw air mattresses down and started renting nights on air mattresses. So it's a phenomenal story. And when you think about it, you're like, how did you ever get your first person to do that, right? Like, come on in. But then when you think about like air traffic, the pilots and like they're staying in these crash pads all the time. So it's not unusual. So ASU, #1 in innovation for the 9th year in a row, right? Why is ASU #1 in innovation? And I think the best person that could explain this is President Crow.
Our future is that we intend to be able to move and innovate at light speed, to lead the world in new ideas and new solutions, to explore whole new ways of thinking. The world we're in right now requires a level of adaptive change that requires educational attainment.
I knew ASU was the right place for me because I was immediately challenged to think bigger and think broader and to produce the best possible work I could.
We are in one of the most innovative places where innovation is unencumbered. Nobody gets in the way of other people's ideas here.
Currently in my entrepreneurship class, we were tasked with creating a product that was going to change journalism totally off of nothing. You had to think of your idea yourself. To be pushed by my professor to come up with an idea that nobody's done before was really cool.
ASU has helped me just give me the opportunity to do things that not everyone gets a chance to do, like undergrad research.
You have this large school with all these resources and each student really feels the effect of that.
The innovative process is never one guy. Innovation is a collective process. It's an engagement process. It involves hundreds of people around a single thing, thousands of people around a big thing, hundreds of thousands of people around big ideas.
When I graduate, I want to do great things in the world. I want to be a contributor in society and make an impact.
You're going to go out and fix it, solve it, drive it forward. There's nothing that holds you back from being able to do that, because the world is not a predetermined set of outcomes. The world is a set of outcomes that you will be determining, and that's what we do, is help you to be able to be the determiner of those outcomes.
So innovation, there's all kinds of trends in healthcare with innovation. We've talked on some of them here today. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, telesurgery, right? Like, how crazy is telehealth, right? So you don't have to be in the room with the doctor anymore. You don't have to be in the hospital with the doctor anymore. You don't need to be in the same state as the doctor anymore. You don't need to be in the same country as the doctor anymore. But how's telesurgery work? You don't need to be in the same room with the surgeon anymore. You don't need to be in the same hospital with the surgeon anymore. You don't need to be in the same state as the surgeon anymore. Like, pretty interesting. Virtual reality, there was this great study that came out of UCLA Medical Center that talked about virtual reality, and they did a little program with kids that were afraid to get vaccinated. Now, were kids afraid to get vaccinated because of a moral or ethical issue? No, they don't like needles, right? Kids don't like needles. So they did this program where they put VR goggles on these kids and a little cartoon played, and during the cartoon they brushed up against something that was cold, and that's when the nurse put the alcohol swab on, and then they felt a little prick when they brushed against a tree, and that's when they got the shot. And guess what? The kids weren't scared anymore. Like how many, I mean, we all live it, we've all been there, right? Like when you're donating blood or when you're giving blood and you're watching the needle go in, like, or when you're at the dentist, like by all means, like if I could be at the beach while I'm at the dentist, like put the goggles on me and sign me up today. So there's so many opportunities to do this. We talked about drones, like drones started out as toys, right? But 2 years ago, the very first organ transplant in Canada was delivered via drone. Like drone, like are you crazy? Like why did it go by drone? Because it was gonna be a 28-minute drive when it was a 4-minute drone flight. And they could keep the box pressurized so that the lungs could get there in a safer environment. So it's absolutely unbelievable, like what we can do. But sometimes it's a little bit scary, right? Like Kathy mentioned, like sometimes it's scary when you get in your car and your phone's like, you'll be there in 28 minutes. And you're like, I'm not going there. Oh, yeah, I am, right? Or trusting the route, right? Like when Maps changes your route and all of a sudden you're like, oh, that's not the way I normally go. But they're like, well, oh, do I try it? Do I trust it? Like, what do we do? How does that work in healthcare? Do we trust AI in healthcare? There's this phenomenal study that, I mean, if I was to ever know one study in my life, this was the study. And it was done in the UK, and it was, they taught pigeons how to read tumors on x-rays. And I was like, that's awesome. And they fed the pigeon every time it found a tumor. And what they found was that humans are 84% effective at diagnosing breast tumors. Pigeons are 99% accurate. 99% accurate. Why? Because pigeons can see different shades of gray than we can. They have better eyes than we do. But imagine this scenario, right? You're at Mayo Clinic. You're at one of the best facilities in the world. And they come in, they said, hey, we have good news and we have bad news. We looked at your x-rays. We brought in 3 of the best radiologists that we know in the world, and they couldn't find anything. But we showed the pigeon. And the pigeon went crazy. Found it, we're ready to operate. Okay, no worries. Because we brought in a second opinion, both pigeons found the same spot. Let's go, right? So, I mean, isn't that AI, right? Are we gonna be able to trust the things that we can't see? Are we gonna be able to trust the things that our tests don't currently count for? Like, hey, we found a tumor, AI found a tumor, we think we know where it is, and we're gonna go. That's a little bit scary, but we need to trust the process. So what will AI replace? I mean, the rumors are radiologists, pathologists, lab techs, and x-ray technicians. The funny thing is I made this slide with AI, right? I used the PowerPoint designer. What's the one thing they messed up on the slide? A radio? Right? So it's not perfect yet, right? So maybe don't quite trust the pigeon, right? Maybe make sure you know what's going on. So what we want to do at ASU and what we strive for you to do in healthcare is encourage innovation, right? Present the problem without knowing the answer. Present the problem, but be prepared to accept the solutions, because sometimes the solutions might be a little bit scary. You know, sometimes the solutions might be to have a pigeon. Minimize the parameters for maximum innovation. Like, well, what are the parameters around this? Whatever you want it to be. Well, what can I create? Whatever you want to create. Make it yours. What would your chair look like? Whatever you want it to be. Make it yours. Innovate. Let people stretch outside. Let them use their imagination for the best innovation. The other thing, make it a competition. Like, if you want to come up with phenomenal results, make it a competition. Competition breeds innovation, just like Google did with the moonshot, right? So what Google did years ago is they brought all their employees together and they said, hey, come up with your craziest idea and we'll do it. Craziest idea. Well, what was the craziest idea? The driverless car. Like, who'd have ever thought a driverless car would be something? I saw this video. There was another competitive company in San Francisco that has driverless cars, and it was a slow speed police chase, right? The police had pulled the car over for some reason, And the officer got out and walked up to the window, and you could see his shock when he didn't see a driver in there. And then you could really see his shock, and he reached for his gun when the car lurched forward and drove about another 50 yards because it didn't feel it was in a safe spot to park. So the police officer gets back and he goes, and you're just like, holy cow. But it's a moonshot. It's a crazy, crazy idea. And why do they use the term moonshot? This is astounding. The Wright brothers, we've all heard of the Wright brothers, right? Developed flight. Now, were they the first two guys that ever tried it? No, kids have been jumping off barn roofs for years, right? And most of the time they were putting feathers on them and flapping their arms and doing all these crazy things. These guys really the flight wasn't even that impressive. It was like less than 5 feet off the ground and maybe for, some yards. But it only took 66 years to get to the moon. From the very first flight to the moon took 66 years. Why? Because two guys took a chance. Two guys started, right? They just started, they had a crazy idea, and they're like, let's run with it. And what got us to the moon? Competition, right? So just start, create a competitive environment, and get going. And the good news is that Waymos are now available via Uber. So if you still are holding true to the fact that you don't want to ride with strangers, grab the Waymo, they're on their way. So we at ASU, we have one of the reasons we're number one in innovation, I feel, is because we have teams like we have, like you've seen today, like our faculty in innovation, Dawn Augusta, Dean Shirley's in the back, Dr. Laser's here. So ask us whatever you need. We're here for you. Start a competition, right? Like if we designed the best chair today, we would have a pretty cool looking chair by the end of the day. So thank you so much for your time. Thanks for coming out today, and just start.